Once upon a time, there was a little boy called Howard who loved writing stories.
Little Howard dreamed of being a writer, and so he sat and wrote every night. But everything he wrote was fucking shite, yeah. Wubba-dubba-doo, wubba-dubba-doo. Worst writer in the world, worst writer in the world, worst writer in the world, worst writer in the world. He's a stupid, suck-ass, rubbish writer.
Welcome to the worst writer in the world.
Hooray!
And Howard,
Hello.
You know how sometimes, instead of reading one of your old stories or telling one of our new stories,
Oh, yeah.
we yap on about someone else's old story.
Oh, my God,
and
yeah.
watch a movie and then talk about it for several, sometimes far too many episodes. You know how we do that sometimes?
Yeah, do you know that?
Well, we're doing it again, and this
Hooray!
time, big surprise for all the people who can't read the title of an episode.
Oh, yeah.
It is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which is very much the middle one. As usual, this is going to be stretched over several episodes.
Ooh.
And of course, if you're listening to this on the Worst Writer feed, our episodes are released once every 2 weeks, so you've got to have a bit of patience to get to the next bit of the movie. It's going to be painful, but here's the thing. If you like binging stuff, you want to hear the whole of this story now, if you want to hear all of everything we've got to say about Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade right now, and you can't wait,
Yeah.
it will only cost you $2. Because all you got to do is sign
Amazing.
up for Patreon at the very bottom tier, the very basic, give us as little as you can tier, and you'll get all of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade immediately, but
Amazing.
also loads of other stuff as well.
Loads of other stuff.
Straight away.
So good.
So stop listening to this stupid episode on the Stupid British Comedy Guide and go and sign up to our Patreon instead.
Very
All
good.
right, let's get on with the episode, shall we?
Yes, please.
What are you doing?
Got a bit of sellotape. It's like trying to be on me.
It's on your finger. That's probably reminding you to do something. You know, like Uncle Billy in It's a Wonderful Life ties bits of string around his fingers to remind him to do something, and you put bit of, or people tie a knot in their handkerchief when people used to have handkerchiefs, right, to remind you to do something, rather than just leaving themselves some kind of note,
Yes.
where you tell yourself the thing that you actually need to do, rather than just say, there's a thing, but it's a mystery. There's a thing you need to do, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. Here's a knot in your handkerchief.
I mean, the note thing can be just as bad an idea, because I've definitely left notes, and I know you have as well, that you look at them a year later and you're like, what does that even mean?
Oh, yeah. It depends how good you are at
you-
notes. If you're
Yeah.
like really bad at notes like me and you are, then
Yeah,
you
yeah.
might as well just put a bit of string around your finger. But I'm thinking, like, theoretically speaking, not practically for us, but theoretically there's a better way.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we have phone reminders. And so you can get your phone to give you an incomprehensible note
That's right, yeah.
you wanted to.
You know what I did recently, and scroll through your voice notes and listen to them and be like, what is that?
What the
What
fuck
is
is
that?
this? Yeah. And if you leave yourself, like, I like to use my calendar or reminders. Like, I sometimes say, remind me when I get home to do this thing. And the best thing about that is it's not only you being bad at notes, but sometimes it's your phone being bad at understanding what you intended to type. And you get home and it says, reminder, Hitler the cat. What the fuck? What the fuck does Hitler the cat mean? Is that the name of a character, or is it an action I need to Hitler the cat, or is
Yeah, you've definitely got to
is
hit your
Hitler
cat.
the cat someone I need? I have no idea. And of course, predictive text has kicked in again and said, "You probably meant Hitler."
Yes.
I said, no, I wrote feed. How could it possibly mean Hitler? Why did you change feed to Hitler phone? You're obsessed.
So you're getting all my Hitlers, that's why, because you know that my phone will absolutely never type the word Hitler.
I knew there was something. The thing is, I knew we'd had a conversation in which you'd said something about predictive text and Hitler.
Yeah.
And I couldn't quite remember what it was. So that's why when I started talking about predictive text, I went straight to Hitler.
To Hitler, yeah. Yeah, what my phone does is I type in the word Hitler, which is a character, a real-life human character. He's in the dictionary even, with a capital H, Hitler. Yeah, of course.
People in the dictionary. People in the dictionary.
They do.
That'd be a really long dictionary. I'd have everyone. Hang on, Steve. Yep, Steve, you're in the dictionary. It's fine. you sure that's me and not another Steve? No, it's got a little picture here. Don't worry, Steve. The Steve section of the dictionary is really long. Yeah, so Hitler's in the dictionary.
Yeah, if you go
famously.
to your dictionary, online dictionary now, like if I type in Hitler,
That's called Google. That's not your online dictionary.
no, my online on my computer. It's in the
Oh,
dictionary.
you mean
section.
you don't mean dictionary of definitions. You mean like spelling dictionary.
Yeah, but it also does. I mean, like actually, I don't notice this, but like it says Hitler, Adolf, and then it tells me who Hitler is. But then it says noun. Open brackets, a Hitler, close brackets. And this is a person with authoritarian or tyrannical characteristics.
Oh, I
My
see.
old man
'Cause-
was a bit of a Hitler. So that's why he's in the
Right, I
dictionary,
see, I
because he's
see.
taken on.
It is a descriptive noun as well. Yeah, because when you said like Hitler is a noun, that's true, because every name is a noun. But you meant not just the name Adolf Hitler. And when you said a Hitler, I was like, well, yeah, Adolf Hitler. I still wasn't on board yet. I didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course, a Hitler. Why are you saying his name again?
Yeah.
But then you said a Hitler, which is like your
that's
granddad is a Hitler,
He's a
not
Hitler.
the Hitler, not the Hitler.
Not the Hitler.
Just a Hitler.
But he
One of
actually
many.
he's a Hitler and he's a Hitler. It's like there's only few people who can say that about Hitler.
That capital A is really important in this sentence. My grandfather is a Hitler. It's like, wow. Okay, shit.
But yeah, if I type Hitler into my phone, it immediately changes it to something like Hitler or something, and
Something that doesn't exist.
and underlines it in red, and I'm like, what? Why?
Yeah, that's your mistake.
You
Why are
just
you
did
getting
that.
on my case about it? Tell yourself off instead of giving me the red line.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, talking of Nazis, there is a link because I watched Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Ooh.
And as you know, sometimes I watch a movie and I sit there with my little computer making notes about it and pausing the movie so I can keep up, because some of my notes get a bit long.
But not with this one, because it's considered one of the best films ever in the world, right? So you must have just been sitting there loving it
Is it
and
really?
enjoying it.
No, it's really boring. It's really bad. I was really surprised how much I did not enjoy this movie, because I thought I liked this movie. I did, because I have really, obviously it's got one of the greatest jokes in history in it, delivered perfectly by one of the greatest comedians in history. And yes, I am talking about when the old knight says he chose Paulie. It's so funny. It's such a perfectly written and perfectly timed joke. It's wonderful, and I will never. I don't think there's a line in cinema that I like as much as that one. Mm-hmm. But apart from that, it's a really boring film.
I've not seen it for a while. I seem to recall it having
me
a
neither.
lot of jokes in it. It was quite a jokey one.
It is, yeah.
And as someone that I guess really liked Temple of Doom, maybe that wasn't my favourite, but I did it, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's full on slapstick, really. He like bumps into Hitler and everything, doesn't he? And it's like Hitler signs his
Yes, that's
his
right.
Grail
yes.
book, and
Yeah, that's right.
and it's got
Yeah,
this.
it's loads of gags.
The scene where he's gone over the edge of the cliff, well, I seem to remember that being kind of amusing, because then he
Yes,
comes up and
that's
he's
right.
looking over as well. It's like
Yeah.
straight out of a comedy film, yeah.
Yeah, and it's performed and shot as a comedy. The way it is, it's totally, because it's not particularly realistic. It's done as a comedy, and yeah, you're right. A lot of it's like that. So yeah, it's like an action comedy rather than whatever the first two films were, boring action movies. This is a boring action comedy movie. I think the thing is, right, I think what I realised when I was watching this film, and I had to watch it very slowly over many weeks because I kept getting bored every 5 minutes and stopping it and doing something else instead.
Yeah.
Because it was so dull. I think what I learned is I don't really like Indiana Jones, and I'm not sure I ever did.
Right.
I think I might have similar feelings about an Indiana Jones as I did about James Bond when we were kids, which is like the idea of it. Like we used to play James Bond in your back garden and stuff, and we'd like both be James Bond and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't remember ever watching a whole movie or liking the movies. It was just this idea of this kind of like being a secret agent with lots of secret identities, which James Bond didn't even have, right? But that was definitely a part of it. We'd have I remember having like wallets with all our secret identity cards in, and that's not a James Bond thing.
Yeah,
and I
James
think that's because
Bond's-
I never watched the movies and so didn't know what it was about, and you probably just went, you did, but you didn't care.
Yeah, because we were just better at being secret agents than he was. Because you're
go
not a
and tell
secret
everyone our
agent
name.
if you go and tell everyone who you are.
Yeah, you're an open agent.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone. There's no
Yeah.
secret here.
Well, maybe, I mean, just to put this out here, maybe you do actually like Indiana Jones, but you don't like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade because it's got James Bond in it.
It is a possibility, but the thing that gave me the idea to do this one was when Raiders of the Lost Ark was on TV, and I watched a bunch of it, and it was really, really boring, and I hated it.
Right, okay.
So I'm not sure if that can be true. I think what I liked, this is what I'm thinking about it, the reason I thought I liked Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is because when we were teenagers, I had an adventure game of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and I really liked that on the old Amiga, right? The
Oh,
graphical
yeah.
adventure
He
thing.
used to get his whip and swing over the holes.
I think that one might have been Raiders, where it was like a side scroller. But or maybe it was that one as well. But it was very much a kind of point and click, look at this, pick up this kind of game, you know.
Okay.
And you had to solve little puzzles, and it was very much the plot of the movie. Like it really followed the plot, but you'd have to work out how to get to the next bit and stuff. So it was difficult. I don't think I ever got even that far with it. I think I probably got about halfway through and then gave up because we didn't have the internet back then to go, how do I get to the next bit?
Yeah.
You know? But I remember really liking that game, and I think that convinced me that I like the movie. But then I watched it, and it turns out that it's really boring and rubbish. But with some iconic moments.
Because what was missing in Indiana Jones for you, of course, was like Shia LaBeouf swinging through the trees with a load of monkeys, because that's when it gets really good. That's when Indiana Jones really like reaches the echelons that you hoped it would.
Yeah.
And then some aliens turn up. That's always great.
I mean, the thing is, I started watching Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, right?
Yeah.
The fourth one. I started watching that, and I watched maybe the first, probably it must have been 45 minutes or more, and I was so bored that I had to switch it off. Like after he hid in that fridge at the beginning, that was good. Obviously, hiding in a fridge from a nuclear explosion. I liked that bit. That was brilliant. But then it got really boring. And so I switched it off, and then every time you tell me about it, it sounds amazing, because you're like, yeah, swinging through the trees like Tarzan, quicker than jeeps or whatever. And there's aliens in it. I'm like, this sounds like exactly the sort of movie I'd like. But I don't think it is.
No.
I think any Indiana Jones movie, I find them really boring. Right. And I apologise to all our listeners who really love Indiana Jones, but maybe the part of the thing is you haven't watched it in ages, and actually it sucks. Have you thought about that? So I made loads of notes, and then this is ages ago when I finally finished watching this movie, like weeks and weeks ago. And I keep every now and again I'm like, oh, I must sort out those notes, and I look at them and I'm so bored, so I don't do it. Because usually the way I do this is I'll watch a movie, and sometimes I'll watch it quite quickly, like Snowpiercer. I think Snowpiercer, I did it in real time. I just made the notes as I watched it. I never even paused it. Sometimes I watch it very slowly, like Superman 3, because there's a lot of pausing, because there's a lot to say about that movie.
Yeah.
And this one, I watched it quite slowly, made loads of notes, watched it over a period of months, because I kept stopping and hated it. Mm-hmm. And then when I've finished, usually what I'll do is I'll just go through my notes and sort them out, delete the boring bits, try and come up with a basic thesis and make it make sense. And then edit it and make it better, and then we'll go through them together. But this one, every time I looked at the notes, I was so bored and annoyed that I just didn't do anything.
Right.
And then today I decided, you know what, I'm never going to do this. I am never, ever going to do these notes. So what I should do is we should just record it, and I'll just be as surprised by my notes as you are.
Brilliant.
So I haven't even looked at them, or except for maybe the first page, which I actually, did check but didn't do much with.
Right. Perfect.
So that's what we're doing. So I've got no idea what I'm talking about this time. It's all going to be very messy.
That's right. Well, if it's terrible, at least they've got all that stuff about Tintin at the front end to.
Yeah, that's true. We've created value today. If nothing else happens, that's okay. Although that was the Mike and Brian bit, so they haven't got that.
Okay. Well, what about that bit about Hitler? Is that?
That's probably it. There's definitely some stuff about Hitler in, yeah. And if you're wondering what we're on about with that Mike and Brian stuff, if you aren't already, you should join the Secret Gang and listen to the Mike and Brian tapes, which is our warm-up act, Mike and Brian. Hello, Mike and Brian. Hello. Doing like 10-minute warm-ups before we do this, like which are often, it turns out, are often funnier than anything else we do and better. So we like put them together into their own episodes of Mike and Brian chatting. And it may be our best podcast.
Yeah.
Just us doing stupid warm-ups and really often talking about Mr. T for some reason. Like really regularly. All right. So my first thought about this film is that Indiana Jones is A, a terrible archaeologist, right? B, a terrible teacher. And C, a really terrible person. Okay.
Good.
And this, I feel like this movie was just like trying to prove those three things. So I think we'll be able to see that as we go through it. All right.
I mean, like Indiana Jones is already proven as a terrible human being, because in the very first movie, when he goes to try and find this medallion, he bumps into his ex-girlfriend who was like 14 when he used to like sleep with her or something. So we already know that he's a terrible and should not be teaching, because
he shouldn't be allowed near teenagers. Absolutely. And I mean that film opens with him robbing a temple, right? That's the opening of Raiders with the big ball.
Yeah.
So you know that's not okay.
Yeah, archaeologist is not the correct term. He's a tomb robber.
He is, yes.
He's a tomb raider, isn't he? He's Lara Croft.
He is, absolutely.
But hotter.
I'll give you that. Yeah. He is very good looking, but he's also very sweaty and grimy in this movie, like a lot of the time. It's weird how sweaty and grimy he is, and it's not that attractive.
Well, you say that in test screenings, he was like not sweaty or grimy at all, and all the women were like, "We like it when it's so." They CGI'd all that sweat and grime onto him. That's not really there.
Yeah, reshot some of his close-ups with just pouring a bucket of shit over him first. There you go. Now he's sexy. All right, so this movie opens with an action sequence, of course, as they always do. And the thing we see first is some kids on a scout trip in the desert.
Yes, desert scouts. Yeah.
And two of these scouts go into a cave and see Indiana Jones. Or is it, right? Because we think it's Indiana Jones because, and you can give us a break because he is dressed exactly like Indiana Jones, like 100%. He might as well have "I am Indiana Jones" written on his back.
That's true, yeah.
But the other guys he's with aren't calling him Indiana Jones. They're calling him Fedora. Because he's named after his hat.
Yeah, he's lucky he chose that hat then, isn't he? Because if he'd have put a woolly hat on, then everyone would be calling him Woolly.
Woolly hat. No, he's called Steve Fedora.
Steve Fedora.
Steve Fedora. And the other guys are called Dave Beanie and Bob Helmet, of course.
This is one of those movie things where they like to go like, how can we remove all agency from our character? I know.
Yes.
Their entire character is based on someone they met.
It's a real thing with prequels, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like they're always desperate to explain everything, but all it does is, I mean, they did the same with Solo, to the same actor. They got someone else to take away every decision he ever made and make it like this weird coincidence or based on someone else. He's called Han Solo because some fucking government official made a mistake or something, or just made it up on the spot because he didn't have a surname or so.
Right.
It's really dumb. They do this whole scene about why he's called Han Solo, and I'm like, why do you need to explain why? It's because his mum and dad chose a fucking name.
This is
surely
the Star Wars universe. Are you going to explain why Grand Moff Tarkin's called that? Come on, explain that.
No, we're not going there.
Would be a long scene.
And also maybe something that people have actually wondered about, because that's what the fuck is a Grand Moff? But no one ever went, oh, why is he called Han Solo? Because it's his fucking name. But no, they've got to explain, and they've got to explain why Indiana Jones wears that hat and why he dresses in those clothes and why he's named after a fucking dog. Gotta do all. And in this one as well, right? They explain his name. In this movie, they explain his name, and it's not because his mum and dad chose that. It's a different, stupid reason. I wonder if there's any, I want our listeners to tell me, are there any other Harrison Ford movies where I get told why he's called that, and it's not because his parents decided or his guardians,
I hope so. I hope every movie is ever made.
All right, so this whole sequence, we're going to learn that it's not. We've just learned it's not Indiana Jones after all. They tricked us. We thought it was Indiana Jones, but it's not. So this whole sequence is going to serve to explain every single detail of Indiana Jones's character as something that happened to him in this fairly short sequence of events. Right? Every decision he's ever made comes from this one experience, and he decided nothing's.
God.
Nothing else has happened to him except for this one thing.
I mean, talk about sliding doors, eh? Just imagine if, he'd gone in a different cave. What could have happened? Santa Claus was there, kind of loading up his sleigh. He's like, well then,
yeah.
know what hat I'm wearing.
Here's my hat for life. Going to be driving a sleigh. Is this good for an archaeologist? I mean, well, I'm not really an archaeologist, to be honest. It's pretty good for a tomb robber because I've got somewhere to put all the artifacts I'm stealing.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
So next we learn we learn that this guy in the hat who's dressed as Indiana Jones is not Indiana Jones, but second we learn that one of the kids is Indiana Jones because one of the other kids says his name 8 times. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, Indiana Jones, look at that rock, Indiana Jones. Can you pass me that woggle, Indiana Jones? Look out for that gun, Indiana Jones. It's
That's
really
true.
over the top.
Which flies in contradiction to what we just discussed later on in the movie when it turns out that's not even his name. And Sean Connery didn't know he was calling himself that until the future. So why is everyone calling him Indiana when his name's...
I don't think there's any implication that Sean Connery doesn't know. I don't think it's clear when he just refuses to call him Indiana Jones because his name's not that. Because it is like calling your kid Steve, and then your kid's like, no, I want to be called Rover. I want to be called Rover.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, there's the dog.
The dog's currently
name.
Called that.
When
now.
I shout Rover, I don't want you to come and get a fucking stick for me. All right?
Yeah.
I want the dog. So I mean, you can see Sean Connery's point of view, really.
Junior, stop bringing me my slippers.
And also, when you're a kid, you might be like, okay, my kid wants to be called Rover. For some reason, it's annoying, but it's a phase. It'll pass. But now he's a 40-year-old man still calling himself Rover Jones. All right, so now we learn that Indiana Jones is a massive nerd. Mm-hmm. Because he says the gold treasures belong in a museum.
Yeah.
And he tells his friend to go and get the scout leader to give these dangerous villains a good talking to. And so the other kid goes, and Indiana Jones steals the cross that they're stealing. So he steals from the thieves, but they see him, and one of the women they're with, because there's a couple of women there just who appear to be there to not wear too many clothes.
Nice.
She says, "He's got our thing." That's the line that they wrote. That's the one. He's got our thing.
Brilliant. And
so then we get a couple of good prequel moments because firstly, Indiana Jones not scared of snakes. We see him not being scared of snakes.
Oh.
Yet, but that's going to be solved in the next scene, don't worry.
Okay.
But right now, not scared of snakes. And he tries to jump on a horse, but he can't because who can jump onto horses and then ride them away? No, you can't do that. Stop doing it. At best, you're gonna break that horse's back.
It's a good job that Indiana Jones, like most movie people, is such a paper thin character, because otherwise they'd have a lot more explaining to do in this first section. All they've got to do is, why is he wearing a hat and why is he scared of snakes? Why is he called Indiana Jones? There we go. That's it. Solve those three things.
Yeah, they're leaving that one till later.
Yeah,
but that's the whole film then. Done. Yeah. All right, so he decides the best way to escape is to ride his horse next to a train and climb onto the train from the horse, like a normal kid, just a normal scout, riding a horse and jumping onto a train. So he does that successfully. So he can't jump on a horse, but he can jump from a horse onto a train. So he's got some skills already. And then it turns out that it's a circus train. Famous circus trains travelling from town to town on their special circus train to set up the circus in the next town from a train, always next to the train tracks, and presumably parked on the train tracks so no other trains can go. Well, the circus in town for a week, so no trains, everyone. No, so it's a circus train. So they've got alligators and buckets of snakes and a big tank of clowns. They just got a lot of dangerous animals, basically, in this train. I don't know why it has to be a circus train. I mean, you could have a train transporting dangerous animals if you wanted to. Doesn't need to be a specifically, like, this train is 100% circus, does it?
What, so you can do that amazing magic tricks with the disappearing box?
Yeah, there is that as well, yeah. The real magic, which we'll come to in a minute, yeah. Anyway, so Indiana Jones falls into a big bucket of snakes and he immediately gets a phobia. Because, circuses famous for having big buckets of snakes, of course, for their brilliant snake bucket trick.
Routine, yeah.
Anyway, so he gets out of that carriage and he gets back on the roof or something, I don't know. But anyway, at some point he falls into a lion's carriage and we get to see him use a whip for the first time. He gets a whip off the wall and starts using a whip against the lion. And this gives him a lifelong love of whips, but not a phobia of lions for some reason. Right? Phobia of snakes from falling into those harmless snakes.
Yeah, well, because he fell into them. He didn't fall into the lion. If he'd fallen into the lion, then he'd probably have a phobia or at least be dead.
Yeah, maybe. Or is it that he has to fall into a bucket full of the thing to get the phobia? So if he'd fall into a bucket of lions, then he'd be in trouble. But because there's just one lion, like, just standing there, that's not scary to him. It's the bucket that he's scared of.
Yeah, so it was his other phobia, but they don't mention it as much. I hate buckets! John, I hate buckets!
Then he also almost gets gored by a rhino and doesn't develop a phobia of rhinos. So I think this supports my idea, because the rhino is not... It's not a bucket full of rhinos. It's just one rhino, so no phobia. So I think that's true. I think it's all about the bucket.
So weird. At what point does he reach the Balaclava Man? I mean, that's what we're all wondering. As he travels, through this weird train.
He doesn't. I think he gets off before he gets to the good bit. He's at the bit of Snowpiercer that we didn't even get to see: the lion carriage and the snake carriage and the rhino carriage. And then, as you mentioned, he goes into a magic carriage and uses actual magic to escape. Like he gets into a vanishing box and doesn't come out underneath it or anything. He comes out outside of the train. So unless this vanishing box is designed to be used in that train carriage and therefore they've cut a hole in the floor, like, he uses actual magic. It makes him actually disappear for real. Whoever wrote this film thought that stage illusionists are using real magic and thought, oh, that'd be good. Be good if Indiana Jones uses one of their real magic vanishing boxes to disappear at this point. Yeah. So then he goes home. Indiana Jones goes home, and unfortunately, oh dear, Fedora has turned up with the police, and they make Indiana Jones give back the cross that he stole, because I guess for some reason the cross. Now I guess they didn't steal it, did they? The Fedora and his mates, they found it somewhere, and Indiana Jones is all like, no, that belongs in a museum. So actually, the only person stealing is Indiana Jones at this point. So it does make sense that the police are on the side of the other guys, because he did actually steal from them. I don't know where their proof is, because it's just some kid with a cross and they turn up with the police going, yeah, that's mine. I could do that at someone's house, just turn up at someone's house, go in and say, you see that? See that laptop? That's mine. He nicked that from me in a cave. See that TV? That TV, that's mine, that is. Could you make him give it back to me? Yeah, all that money in his bank account. All that money in that guy's bank account, that's mine, that is. Can I have it back, please?
Yeah.
So, after the police make Indiana Jones give it back, Fedora says to Indiana Jones, you lost today, kid. That doesn't mean you have to like it. And I don't know, I guess this is meant to make us think this, like, Indiana Jones didn't just get his hat from this guy, he got his whole personality from him as well, right? I guess. But then Fedora gives Indiana Jones his hat for no reason.
Oh.
He's brought the police round. It's not that Indiana Jones thought, that's a cool hat, I'll buy one later. It's the same hat.
Right?
I mean, fortunately, the guy doesn't start stripping all his clothes off and give them to him as well. It is just the hat, and then Indiana Jones has to go out and buy the outfit that goes with
like,
it.
Look, here's my dad, Sean Connery. Do you want him? And it gives him that as well.
Yeah, no, yes, I think that's a wonderful idea. Instead of just giving him his hat, he should give him his hat, all his clothes, and his dad at this point. That's perfect, yeah. But no, he just gives him his hat for no reason whatsoever.
That line that he says is kind of like kind of a nothing line, though, isn't it?
Yes,
You lost today,
yeah.
but you don't have to. I mean, like, who's ever happy about having lost?
Maybe Indiana Jones.
Was
Maybe
Indiana
Indiana's
Jones?
famous
Was Indiana
for-
Jones doing something that suggested he was? Was he having a little
He was
chicken
doing-
party?
Yeah, little I Love Losing dance.
Yeah.
They were singing it, I Love Losing.
And then he's like, "No, you
He's
shouldn't
like,
be happy."
"Look, kid, fuck.
What are you doing?
Stop, put your chickens away. This is not a time for I Love Losing dance. In fact, it's never the time for the I Love Losing dance." And Indiana Jones' eyes were opened. And it's like, what, you mean when I lose, like every time I lose at Monopoly, I don't have to get a load of chickens and do the I Love Losing dance? Dad, real dad, you've been lying to me. Oh no, I better leave. And his real dad runs away.
Yeah.
I'm your dad now, says Sean Connery.
I'm calling you fucking Rover. Are you okay with that?
Yeah. No. He gives. So Fedora gives Indiana Jones his hat for no reason, which is going to cause him problems because, like, what are they going to call him now? Right? I mean, they're going to call him Hair or something, hairstyle.
Yeah, the man with no name. Open brackets
Yeah.
or hat, close brackets. Yeah.
Cut to adult Indiana Jones on a boat. So a second big action sequence, but this time he is an adult and he's still trying to get that same damn cross because it still belongs in a museum and he is still a massive nerd. And they try to throw him over the side of the boat. They try to throw him into the sea.
Yeah.
But fortunately, Indiana Jones can easily beat up 10 or 12 guys because he is an archaeologist and a teacher. But they know they do. He does end up in the water. He gets thrown off the boat into the water. But while he's in the water, this is something interesting that I noticed. While he's in the water, the bad guy on the boat was like dressed in white, and he had this weird kind of, I don't know, like colonial murderer hat. I'm not sure what kind of hat it was, but it was not a cool hat. And when Indiana Jones is in the water, the bad guy's hat floats past him. Mm-hmm. But Indiana Jones doesn't want that hat. Right? So he doesn't steal the hat of everyone he disagrees with, or he doesn't steal everyone who steals this cross, who tries to get this cross. He doesn't want all their hats, just that one guy from when he was a kid.
That's important character questions that need answering. Where did Indiana Jones... 'Cause, you know, that's like... For 2 movies of Indiana Jones that I was personally watching, I was going, but where did he get the hat? Where did he get it?
Where did he get that whip?
And so that's why Last Crusade is considered the best, because it finally answers all those amazing questions that you had.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like no one ever cared where he got that hat. But some people might have actually asked, why is that archaeologist so into using a whip? That's not a profession that generally uses a whip. So finding out that it's because he had to whip a lion, it's actually not that satisfying, is it? It's not that good an explanation, because one time when he was a kid he had to whip a lion, and that's why he, as an archaeologist, still has a whip all the time, but not as a teacher.
Interesting. So maybe he does have a phobia of lions then, because it's like, why else would he be carrying a whip everywhere? Because he's worried he's going to meet another lion, isn't he?
Well, I mean, to be fair to him, he did meet a lion in the most unexpected place when he was a kid. Because when I'm on a train, I'm not expecting to meet a lion.
No.
So you might actually choose to carry a whip everywhere with you. But here's a thought for you: he doesn't carry a whip everywhere. He only has a whip when he's an archaeologist.
Right. Yeah.
Like when he's an on-site archaeologist or tomb raider, as we've established. Not when he's a teacher. And arguably, because this is set in the 1930s or something, when teachers were quite violent, right? But archaeologists still weren't. Like, well, not violent to individuals, maybe to cultures, and Yes. But I'd say he probably has more use for the whip as a teacher.
Yeah, I know. I understand what you're saying, but like, he's a university professor, isn't it? I don't think people would have been so keen to go to university if they thought they were just going to get whipped.
Whipped, yeah. But I mean, if they got whipped by Harrison Ford, I mean, come on, all of those students are really into him.
That's true.
Some of them are bound to be into that as well. You know, all of them want to have sex with him.
That's
like
true.
100%.
It would be better if on her eyelids she'd written "whip" and "me," right? You know.
Wait, the I love you. That's in the first movie, right? Is that the
first
first or is it
one.
the second? Because that's madness. To start the first movie, and you're like, what if one of the students has "I love you" written on her eyelids? What a weird beginning to a movie.
Yeah, should say "whip me." That would be less weird. Whip me.
All right. Anyway, then after the action sequence finishes, we finally cut to school. Everything's calm. And as we've seen in previous movies, Indiana Jones is the dullest teacher in the world. Right? He is so boring because he just stands there and speaks to them in this like monotone. Like he's so like, there's a thing about archaeology and there's a thing about archaeology. And while he's doing that, while he's being the dullest person in the world, all the girls are like just swooning and falling out of their chairs with desire because he's so fucking beautiful, I guess, despite being boring.
That's how hotness works, though, isn't it? I mean, you don't have to be interesting. You just have to
No,
be
I think
pretty.
you have to have some kind of appeal as well. And right now, he's wearing a boring suit, being boring, saying boring things. And I don't think, I mean, maybe they might be like, he's still quite hot, but they wouldn't be falling off their chairs with
That's
desire.
true. They do dress him specifically like a kind of like Clark Kent geek kind of.
They do. They really make a difference between him as a teacher and him as a action archaeologist.
He just wear glasses as well, right? So he's Superman,
Yeah.
basically.
He is, yeah.
He's like wears a silly suit. He's mumbles and he's like boring, but then he takes his glasses off and he whips lions.
But for some reason, they forgot that, like in Superman, like not you haven't got every woman that Clark Kent meets going, oh, Clark Kent is so gorgeous.
Yeah.
You know, like even Lois Lane is meant to be more like for a while more into Superman, right? That's part of the dynamic,
Yeah.
isn't it? That people are like, oh, Superman, but Clark Kent, nerd.
Nerd.
But this one, it's like, oh, Indiana Jones, no matter what. Oh, Indiana Jones dressed as a massive nerd. Well, obviously every woman who exists wants to have sex with him immediately.
I suppose it's possible that they've all seen the movies, so they know that he's just dressing down and trying to look like a geek, but actually he's like really cool.
Yeah, now, but that does not explain why that one student wrote "love you" on her eyelids in movie 1. I guess maybe she'd seen Star Wars.
I mean, maybe that was just tattooed there. Maybe it's always there.
Maybe she's just blinking and we assumed a lot.
Yeah, it's like Harrison Ford's, own ego that makes him think that that's for him.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, who has ever written the words "love you" on their eyelids as a way of communicating? That is the maddest thing that has ever happened. Just like to a teacher. That would be insane. And like it's difficult to read as well for a start, especially when you're as old as he is. He's about 60. He's not going to be able to see that. But if it was a tattoo and she just happened to have been blinking and he leapt to conclusions, that makes more sense, right?
It's because she doesn't stick her tongue out because she's got Steve tattooed on her tongue, and then he would have known.
Yeah. I love you, Steve Helmet. I love you, Steve Helmet. Everyone's named after a hat, you see.
Yeah.
So anyway, when he's finished boring his class,
He's named after a hat, definitely. Yeah.
when he's finished boring his class, he returns to his office and finds it full of yelling students. Just loads of students shouting at him, right? But what he says at this point is he says, shush, shush, like he's Mr. Fluck. It's really weird. He starts doing a Mr. Flucky, but he's like, shush, shush. And then he goes into his office and he's inside and the students are like banging on his door like
Right,
they're
yeah.
zombies trying to eat his brains, which I'm assuming is like a metaphor because he's the big genius and they all want to get at his knowledge by eating his brains.
I see. Why are they? What's going on? Do they get bad grades or something?
He's shit at teaching. They're all trying to get any information out of him. They're all the students who are failing his class because he's so bad at teaching, all trying to, probably annoyed with him for being a shit teacher, right? That's not a sign of a good teacher. Loads of students banging on your door, desperate to get some time with you, but you ignore them. like, I think that's what the film intends it to be. Like, he's really popular, but he hasn't. He wants to get away from them. But no, he's really bad at teaching, and they all desperately need some tutorial to find out what the fuck the subject is about. Because they can't hear him in class because he's mumbling. That's what his class does. They're all like, "Have you got a written version of your lecture you just gave? Because I couldn't hear a single fucking word of it." Anyway, he picks up a parcel from his desk and then climbs out of the window to escape the students who need extra help because his classes are so awful. What he taught them in the class, right? The only thing you can hear him say is what archaeology isn't. It's like a script by you. He's there to tell them what archaeology isn't. He says it's not treasure hunting and standing on tops of trains and almost getting killed in boats. Right? Which is demonstrably untrue. It's not wearing a hat and using a whip and being really fucking shit at teaching. Yes, it is Indiana Jones.
Wow.
No, that's not exact. That's the kind of, the heart of what he says. But the actual line is, "We do not follow maps to buried treasure, and X never marks the spot."
All right.
Right. But this is actually a hilarious joke where he tells you what's going to happen in this film.
Yeah.
Because that is the plot of this movie.
Oh yeah, that big X in the library.
I feel like they could have gone further, right? They
Yes.
definitely could have gone further. They could have said, "We don't receive our dad's Grail diary in the post. Get chased by Nazis and find a magic cup in a canyon in Alexandretta just after watching a man turn into a hairy skeleton." That's a better line, right? Because then all the students will be like, "What? What the fuck?"
Just spitballing here. Just spitballing.
It's true, right? That's not what archaeology is. I'd be really surprised if it ever was.
Worst writer in the world. Worst writer in the world. Worst writer in the world. Worst writer in the world.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Worst Writer in the World. If you hate cliffhangers and just want to find out what happens next now, then you can get the next episode immediately for just $2 at patreon.com/manbycow.
Wow.
Bye-bye milk.
Bye-bye, milk.
He's a stupid, suck-ass, rubbish writer. Yeah.